Hi, welcome to this Corbettmaths video. In this video, we're going to look at the video solutions to the decimals to fractions and fractions to decimals practice questions, so convert between decimals and fractions. If you need any extra help with converting between decimals and fractions, go to Corbettmaths and go to the videos and worksheets section and scroll down to video numbers 123, 124, 127 and 128. And some of those videos will be the calculator methods and some will be the non-calculator methods. Alternatively, you could scan this QR code and bring you straight to those videos. But in this video, we're going to focus on the video solutions of the practice questions, so let's get started. Question number 1 says to write 0.25 as a fraction. Now this is a very important decimal, 0.25, and it's one that you should know off by heart. So if you see 0.25, you should know that 0.25 is equal to a quarter. So you should know that a half is 0.5, a quarter is 0.25, and so on. So if you ever see 0.25, you should be able to write down straight away that it's equal to a quarter. Okay, question number 2. Question number 2 is to write 0.7 as a fraction. So again, this is a very important one that you should know off by heart. You should know that 0.1 is 1/10, so that's 1/10. You should know that 0.2 is equal to 2/10 because it's 2/10, or that simplifies down to 1/5. You should know that 0.3 is 3/10, that's 3/10. And 0.4, well, that's 4/10, so that's equal to 4/10, but that cancels down to 2/5. So again, you should know these ones off by heart. You should know that 0.5 is equal to a half, it's 5/10, which cancels down to a half. 0.6, that's equal to 6/10, and that cancels down to 3/5. And this one, 0.7, that's 7/10, because it's 7 in the tenths column. Remember, you've got your units, so your ones, so that's that column. You've got your decimal point, and then this column's the tenths, so the 7/10, so it's just 7/10. And just to complete these, that's 0.7 is equal to 7/10. You should know that 0.8 is equal to 4/5, because 8/10 is equal to 4/5 if you cancel it down, and then 0.9 is equal to 9/10. So they're very important that you know those off by heart, or know that if you've got 0.7, that's just 7/10, and that's it. Okay, let's have a look at the next question, question number 3. So question number 3 says, what is 1/5 as a decimal? And we've got some choices, and we've been asked to circle the answer, and we've got 0.2, 0.5, 0.02, and 0.05. Now there's a few different ways we could do this to write 1/5 as a decimal. Now one approach is to know it, and I've left these up here on purpose because 1/5 is equal to 0.2. So you may know that 1/5 is equal to 0.2, and it's quite useful to know that 1/5 is 0.2 and learn that off by heart. So here, what's 1/5 as a decimal? The answer would be 0.2. So that's one approach. Another approach is to actually consider that if you've got 1/5, you've got your numerator is 1 and your denominator is 5, and you've got 1 divided by 5. So if you work out 1 divided by 5, that'll tell you the decimal. So we just take our 1 and we're going to divide it by 5. So I'm going to do the bus shelter over the 1. I'm going to put a decimal point and a 0 because I know it's going to be a decimal number, and I'm going to divide that by 5. So, and I'm just going to put a decimal point above there for 1. How many 5s are in 1? Well, 0, remainder 1. And how many 5s are in 10? That's 2. So 1/5 is equal to 0.2, and that's it. So 1/5 as a decimal is 0.2, and that's it. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 4. Okay, so question number 4 says to write 0.6 as a fraction, and to give our answer in its simplest form. So again, 0.6, you should know that 0.6 is equal to 3/5 off by heart. So it's quite useful to know that 0.6 is 3/5 straight away, and just be able to write down that 0.6 is 3/5. Another way to approach it is, well, remember here you've got 0.6, that's 6/10, because it's in the tenths column, the tenths column. So that's 6/10. So that's 6/10, and then 6/10 would cancel down to 3/5, just dividing both of those numbers by 2. So 0.6 as a fraction would be 3/5. Now also remember, it's quite useful to remember that the 0.2 is 1/5, 0.4 is 2/5, 0.6 is equal to 3/5, and so on. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 5. So question number 5 says to write 3/4 as a decimal. Again, this is one that you should know off by heart, that 1/4 is equal to 0.25, and that 3/4 is equal to 0.75, or 75%. So I would learn that 3/4 is equal to 0.75 and just learn that off by heart. Now, if you had forgotten that for some reason and you need to change 3/4 into a decimal, you could divide the numerator by the denominator. So we could take our 3, we're going to divide it by the denominator, which is 4. I'm going to put a decimal point in some zeros because I know that whenever I do 3 divided by 4, it's going to be a decimal number. I'm going to put a decimal point above the other decimal point, and I'm going to say how many 4s go into 3? 0, remainder 3. How many 4s go into 30? That's going to be 7 4s is 28, so that's going to be 7, remainder 2. And how many 4s go into 20? That's 5. So the answer would be 0.75. Okay, question number 6. Okay, so question number 6 says to write 4/5 is a decimal. Now again, thinking back, I told you that it's quite important to learn that 1/5 is 0.2, so 4/5 would be 4 lots of 0.2, which is 0.8. Or you could count up that 1/5 is 0.2, the 2/5 is equal to 0.4, that 3/5 is equal to 0.6, and that 4/5 would be equal to 0.8. So again, it's quite useful to learn that 4/5 is equal to 0.8 and to know that off by heart. Another approach, remember, is to divide the numerator by the denominator. So we could take our 4, do the bus shelter and divide it by 5 and do a decimal point and a 0, and then another decimal point above the other one, and say how many 5s go into 4, that's 0 remainder 4, and how many 5s go into 40, that's 8. So the answer would be 0.8. So 4/5 is a decimal is 0.8. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 7. So question number 7, we've got this grid, and the grid's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sections. And part A says what fraction of the grid is shaded. So because we've got 10 sections, each one's 1/10, and here we've got 1, 2, 3 of them shaded in. So that's 3 out of 10. So it's going to be 3/10. So 3/10 of that grid is shaded. Okay, then part B. Part B says to write this as a decimal, so we need to write 3/10 as a decimal. Now 3/10 is a decimal, you could just write it as you say it, 3/10, so that's going to be 0.3, 3/10, because the 3's in the tenths column, so 3/10 is 0.3. Alternatively, we could take the numerator, which is 3, and divide it by the denominator, which is 10. And if we do 3 divided by 10, remember that if we divide by 10, we move the digits 1 column to the right, so it'll be 0.3, so that's equal to 0.3. Alternatively, you could use the bus shelter method if you wanted to, and say how many 10s go into 3, 0, remainder 3. How many 10s go into 30, 3. So the answer is 0.3, and that's it. Okay, let's look at our next question. Okay, so question number 8. Question number 8 says write 0.14 as a fraction and to give our answer in its simplest form. Okay, so let's consider our place value columns. We've got our ones or our units, depending on which one you call it. I tend to call it units, but some students call it ones. Then we've got our decimal point. Then we've got our tenths, so that's your tenths. And then we've got our hundredths, so they're your hundredths. So here we've got 0.14, which is 1/10 and 4 hundredths. Or we can consider it as 14 hundredths. So that it would be 14 hundredths, just writing it as 14 over 100. Now some people like to consider the fact that this has got 2 decimal places. So because it's got 2 decimal places, it's going to be over 100. So it'd be 14 over 100. So it's 14 over 100. Now I've been asked to cancel this down, so let's divide both of those by perhaps 2 to begin with. So it's going to be 7 over 50. And actually that's it, 7/50. So we've cancelled it down as far as we can. So 0.14 as a fraction would be 7/50 in its simplest form. And just to recap, here we had 0.14, that's 14 hundredths, so that's why I wrote 14 over 100. Alternatively, you could look at this number and say, well, it's got 2 decimal places, so 2 numbers after the decimal place, so we do a 1 with 2 zeros after it on the denominator, so over 100, and then we just write 14 over 100, and then cancel it down. Okay, let's look at our next one, question number 9. So question number 9 says to write 0.52 as a fraction and to give our answer in its simplest form. So again here we've got 52 hundredths. So I'd write 52 hundredths because it's 52 and that's the hundredths column, so 52 hundredths. And then cancelling that down, both of those numbers are divisible by 2, so that would be 26 over 50, dividing them both by 2. We can actually divide by 2 again, and if you divide both of those numbers by 2, we'll get 13 over 25. And that's it. So that would be 13/25. So 0.52 as a fraction would be 13/25. And that's our answer. Alternatively, we could look at a number and say we've got 2 decimal places. That's 2 digits after the decimal point, so 2 decimal places. So that means that the denominator will be 100, or 1 with 2 zeros. And then we'll put our 52 on the numerator. So it's going to be 52 over 100. And then we could cancel it down, and that would cancel down to 13/25. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 10. So question number 10 says to write 0.08 as a fraction and to give our answer in its simplest form. So here we've got 8, and that 8's in the hundredths column, so that's going to be 8 hundredths, so 8 hundredths. And then we just need to cancel it down. So we can divide both of those numbers by 2 to get 4/50, and then divide by 2 again to get 2/25. So 0.08 would be equal to 2/25, and that's it. Or alternatively, in this question, we could look at our number 0.08 and we can see we've got 2 decimal places. That's 2 digits after the decimal point. Because we've got 2 digits after the decimal point, that's going to be a 1 with 2 zeros, so 100 on the denominator. And then here we've just got 8 on the numerator, so it's going to be 8 hundredths. And then again, that cancels down to 2/25, and that's it. Okay, let's look at our next question, question 11. So question number 11 says to write 9/10 as a decimal. Now again, this is one that I would say is useful to know off by heart. The fact that 1/10 is equal to 0.1, then 9/10 would be equal to 0.9, or 9/10. and that's it. Alternatively, we could take the numerator, which is 9, and divide it by the denominator, which is 10. So we just put our decimal point and we'll put a 0 after it and say how many 10s go into 9? 0, remainder 9. And how many 10s go into 90? That's 9. So the answer would be 0.9, and that's it. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 12. Okay, so question number 12 says to write 0.012 as a fraction and to give our answer in the simplest form. So here we've got our units or our ones, then we've got our tenths, our hundredths, and then our thousandths. So we're dealing with thousandths here, and we've got 12 thousandths, so 12 thousandths. So we've got 100th and 2 thousandths, and altogether that would be 12 thousandths. So that's 12 thousandths, and then we just need to cancel this down. So if we divide both of those by 2, that'll be 6 over 500. And now both of these we can divide by 2 again, so it's going to be equal to 3 over 250. And that's it. So that's 3 250ths, and that's it. Now again, here what we could do is we can consider our 0.012 and say, well, this number has got 3 decimal places, so that's 3 digits after the decimal point. So that means the denominator will have a 1 and then 3 zeros, so it's going to be 1,000 on the denominator. And then here we've got 12, so it's going to be 12 over 1,000, and again that cancels down to 3 over 250, and that's it. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 13. So question number 13 says to write 3 hundredths as a decimal. So we want to write 3 hundredths as a decimal. We could write it as we said, 3 hundredths. So it's going to be no units, no tenths, and then 3 hundredths. So it would be 0.03, 3 hundredths. So 3 over 100 as a decimal would be 3 hundredths. And that's it, just writing it as we said. Alternatively, remember the line means divided by, so we could do 3 divided by 100. So that'll move all the digits 2 columns to the right. So moving the 3 from the ones, then into the tenths, and then into the hundredths would be 0.03, like so. Alternatively, we could do 3 divided by 100. And then do a decimal point and some zeros and say, well, how many hundreds go into 3? 0, remainder 3. How many hundreds go into 30? 0, remainder 30. And then how many hundreds go into 300? That's going to be 3. So the answer would be 0.03, just using the bus shelter method. And that's it. Okay, let's look at question number 14. So question number 14 says to write 3/20ths as a decimal. So on this one, I'm just going to take the numerator and divide it by the denominator. So I'm going to do 3 divided by 20, and a decimal point and some zeros. So how many 20s go into 3? 0, remainder 3. How many 20s go into 30? That's going to be 1, and then remainder 10. And then how many 20s go into 100? That's going to be 5. So the answer would be 0.15. And that's it. That's question number 14 done. Okay, question number 15. Question number 15 says to write 0.47 as a fraction. So here we just need to write this as a fraction. There's a couple of ways we could do it. One approach is to look at it and say, well, we've got here our units, our tenths, and our hundredths. So this would be 47 hundredths, so 47 hundredths, just writing it down as 47 hundredths, and then seeing if we can cancel this down, and no we can't, so that's actually just it, 47 over 100. Alternatively, again we've got a number here, 0.47. This number has got 2 decimal places, that's 2 digits after the decimal point, so that means that the denominator will be a 1 followed by 2 zeros, and then we've got 47, so it would be 47 over 100, and again that's our answer, 47 over 100. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 16. So question number 16 says to circle the decimal number that is greater than a quarter but less than a third. So you want the number that's bigger than a quarter but less than a third. So let's write down what a quarter and a third is as decimal numbers first of all, and then we can then circle which one's greater than a quarter and less than a third. Now a quarter, we had that one earlier on, actually question number 1, we had that a quarter was equal to 0.25. So that's one that I'd highly recommend that you learn off by heart, that a quarter is 0.25. And also a third's a very important one as well, to know that a third is equal to 0.333333 and so on, or 0.3 with a dot above it, and that dot just means it recurs, that means it's 0.3333 and so on forever. So 0.3333 and so on forever. Okay, so we need to circle the decimal that's bigger than this one but less than this one. Okay, so 0.21, well, that's not greater than 0.25, so it's not that one. 0.24, that's not bigger than 0.25, so no, not that one. Now we've got a choice of 2 here. We've got 0.31 and 0.34. Well, they're both bigger than 0.25, so that's fine, but it needs to be less than 0.333333 and so on. Now 0.34 is actually bigger than 0.333 and so on, because if we have a look here in the hundredths column, this has got 4 hundredths, but this has only got 3 hundredths. So that one's actually bigger than a third. So there's only one decimal here that's bigger than a quarter but less than a third, or bigger than 0.25 but smaller than 0.3333 and so on, and that's this one, 0.31, and that's it. Okay, so let's have a look at our next question, question number 17. So question number 17 says to write 0.82 as a fraction and to give our answer in its simplest form. Okay, so here we've got a decimal point and then we've got our tenths and then our hundredths. So that's going to be 82 hundredths, so 82 hundredths. And then we just need to cancel it down. So 82 and 100, they're both even, so let's divide both of them by 2. So it's going to be 41 fiftieths. And then that's it, 41 fiftieths, so 41 fiftieths. Alternatively, here we could say, well, in terms of the denominator, it's going to be a 1, and then if we have a look, we've got 2 decimal places, so it means we're going to have 2 zeros on the denominator, and then it'll be 82 over 100, and then again that cancels down to 41 fiftieths, and that's it. Okay, question number 18. So question number 18 says circle the value of 0.35 as a fraction. So we want to change 0.35 to a fraction. Now we can actually rule some of these out straight away. I know a third is equal to 0.33333 and so on. We talked about that previously. We've also talked about 3/5 earlier. 3/5, well, a fifth is equal to 0.2, so 3/5 would be 0.6. So that's 0.6, so it's not going to be that one. So we want to write 0.35 as a fraction. Well, let's actually change this to a fraction. We've got our tenths and then our hundredths. That's going to be 35 hundredths. And then both of these numbers are divisible by 5, so let's divide both of them by 5. 35 divided by 5 is 7, so that's 7 on the numerator. And 100 divided by 5 is 20, so it's going to be 7 twentieths. And that's that one, so 7 twentieths. So to circle the value of 0.35 as a fraction, that is 7 twentieths. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 19. So question number 19 says, what is 9/2 as a decimal? And we've been asked to circle our answer. So we've got some choices here. Now this is a top-heavy fraction. The numerator is larger than the denominator. So that means that this fraction will be greater than 1. Because if the numerator is the same as the denominator, it would be equal to 1. But here we've got the numerator is bigger than the denominator, so that means that this will be bigger than 1. And all our options are bigger than 1. We've got 9.2, 2.9, 4.1, and 4.5. So here we've got 9/2. So we could count up in halves. That would be 0.51, 1.52, 2.53, 3.54, and then 4.5, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's 9/2. So the answer would be 4.5. If I was doing this question, what I would do is I would just, like the other ones, divide the numerator by the denominator. So I just do 9 divided by 2. So do 9 divided by 2. And if we do 9 divided by 2, well, half of 9 is 4.5. So the answer is 4.5. And again, if you weren't sure on that, 9 divided by 2, you could do the bus shelter method. Do 9 divided by 2, put a decimal point. How many 2's go into 9? That's 4, remainder 1. And how many 2's go into 10? That's 5. So the answer is 4.5. And that's it. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 20. So question number 20 says to circle the correct statement. So we've got the 0.7 is bigger than 3/4, the 0.7 is equal to 3/4, and the 0.7 is less than 3/4. Now I know this one's not true because I know that 3/4 is equal to 0.75. So 0.7 does not equal 0.75. So, well, let's consider 0.7. Well, 0.7 is less than 0.75. So here, this is 0.75 and this is 0.75, just replacing the 3/4 with 0.75. And let's see which one's correct. So this one says 0.7 is bigger than 0.75. Well, that's not true. Well, this one must be true then, that 0.7 is less than 0.75. Yeah, that's true. So let's circle it. And that's it. That's our answer. Okay, question number 21. Question number 21 says to write 0.902 as a fraction and to write our answer in its simplest form. So we need to write 0.902 as a fraction. So here we've got our tenths, then our hundredths, and then our thousandths. So this is 902 thousandths. So let's write that down. So 902 thousandths, because we've got our tenths, our hundredths, and our thousandths. Or because it's got 3 decimal places, we'd have a 1 with 3 zeros on the denominator. And now we just need to cancel it down. So these numbers are both even, so let's divide both of them by 2. So that's going to be 500 in the denominator. And 902 divided by 2, well, 902 divided by 2, well, how many 2's go into 9? 4, remainder 1. How many 2's go into 10? That's going to be 5. And how many 2's go into 2? That's 1. So that's 451 over 500. And that's it. That doesn't cancel down anymore. So answer is 451 over 500. And that's it. We've written our decimal as a fraction and cancelled it down. Okay, next question, question number 22. So question number 22 says to write 9/40 as a decimal. So this is 9/40, so we need to change this fraction to a decimal. So 9/40, well, the numerator is 9 and the denominator is 40, so let's just do 9 divided by 40, and then that'll be our answer as a decimal. So 9 divided by 40. And let's put a decimal point and some zeros. So how many 40's go into 9? 0, remainder 9. How many 40's go into 90? Well, we've got 40, 80. That's going to be 2 40's go into 90, remainder 10. Okay, and then how many 40's go into 100? Well, 40, 80, 120, so it's going to be 2, and the remainder here now will be 20, and I've put another 0 because I know we need to carry on. How many 40s go into 200? That's going to be 5, so the answer will be 0.225. So 9/40 as a decimal is 0.225. Okay, next, question number 23. So question number 23 says to write 5/8 as a decimal. So we want to change this fraction to a decimal. So we want to divide the numerator by the denominator. So I'm going to put it 5 and then a decimal point and some zeros, then a line over the top, and then our 8. So how many 8s go into 5? 0, remainder 5. How many 8s go into 50? Well, that's going to be 6. 6 8s is 48, so 6, remainder 2. How many 8s go into 20? 2, remainder 4. And how many 8s go into 40? That's going to be 5. So the answer will be 0.625. So what's 5/8 as a decimal? 0.625. And that's it. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 24. Okay, question number 24. So question number 24 says to write 0.725 as a fraction in its simplest form. So let's write this as a fraction. So here we've got tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So this is going to be 725 over 1,000, or a 1 followed by 1, 2, 3 zeros on the denominator, and then 725 on the numerator. Now we need to cancel it down. Now both of these numbers are multiples of 5, so let's divide both of them by 5. 1,000 divided by 5 is 200, and now we need to do 725 divided by 5 and see what we get. So how many 5s go into 7? 1, remainder 2. How many 5s go into 22? That's going to be 4, remainder 2. And how many 5s go into 25? That's going to be 5. So it's going to be 145 over 200. Now again, both of these numbers are divisible by 5, so let's divide by 5 again. So how many 5s go into 200? That's going to be 40, because 40 times 5 is 200. And now we need to do 145 divided by 5 and see what we get. So how many 5s go into 1? 0, remainder 1. How many 5s go into 14? That's 2, remainder 4. And how many 5s go into 45? That's 9. So it's going to be 29/40. So 29/40. And that's it. Okay, next, question number 25. Okay, question number 25, we've been asked to use one of the symbols, less than, equals, or greater than, to make this statement true. So here we've got 0.4 and here we've got a third. Now a third, you should remember from earlier, is 0.3333 and so on. So we need to see which of these numbers is bigger than the other one, because we know they're not equal to each other, so that's not going to be that one. So here we've got a 0 point, and they've both got 0 points, so that's not going to help us. So let's have a look at the tenths. This one's got 4 tenths, and this one's only got 3 tenths. So that means that this one's bigger. 0.4 is bigger than 0.33333 and so on, because this has got 4 tenths, and this one's only got 3 tenths. So this is bigger. So we need to use the bigger than symbol. So that's it. So 0.4 is greater than a third, which is 0.333 and so on. And that's it. Okay, next, question number 26. So question number 26 is a calculator question, but actually we don't need a calculator actually for this one, because we're told that null says that 0.66 is equal to 2/3, and we've been asked to explain is null correct and to explain our answer. Now without a calculator we should know that 1/3 is equal to 0.3333 and so on. So that means that 2/3 would be double that, which is 0.66666 and so on. So that means that 2/3 is 0.6666666 and so on, or 66.66666 and so on percent. But here we're told that null says that 0.66 is equal to 2/3. Well, it's not. 2/3 is actually equal to 0.66666 and so on, not just 0.66. 0.66 is less than this. So that's it. So let's explain that. And that's it. I've just explained that no, 2/3 is equal to 0.666 and so on, not 0.66. So null is incorrect. That 0.66 is less than 0.6666 and so on. Okay, next, question number 27. So question number 27 is a calculator question. So it's very important you know how to change fractions to decimals on your calculator. So if I wanted to write 7/16 as a decimal on my calculator, I just press the fraction button and press 7 on the numerator, 16 on the denominator, and press equals. Now that comes up as 7/16. Then I just need to change that into a decimal number, and then that would be equal to 0.4375. And that's it. So it's important you know how to type in fractions into your calculator. You just press the fraction button, you then press 7 on the numerator, 16 on the denominator, press equals to get on the calculator display. More than likely it'll come up as a fraction again, and then you just need to convert it and to use either the change button or the SD button depending on what mode of calculator you've got, and that's it. Okay, next, question number 28. So question number 28 says to write 13/42 as a decimal and to give our answer to 2 decimal places. So again, on our calculator, all we need to do is to type in our fraction, 13 on the numerator, 42 on the denominator, and press equals. Now this may display in a few different ways. It may display like this, 0.30952338 with a dot above the 0 and a dot above the 8. So that means that it just starts repeating again. So it would actually be 0.30952338. and because the dot starts at is above the 0 and the 8, then it just repeats that chain again. So it just goes 0, 9, 5, 2, 3, 8, 0, 9, 5, 2, 3, 8, and so on. So that's our answer. It may display like this: 0.3095238 095, and just stop, and so on. So that's our answer. Now we need to give our answer to 2 decimal places. Well, we've got more than enough there. If we just have a look at one of these, you'd see that it's 0.3, and then we've got 0.9, so we're going to round up, so it'll be 0.31. So the 2 decimal places, it'll be 0.31, and that's it. Okay, next, question number 29. Question number 29 says to write 0.4932 as a fraction in the simplest form. So all I need to do is type this decimal into my calculator, 0.4932, and press equals. And it'll come up as 1,233 over 2,500. And that's it. And if you just type that into your calculator and press equals, it changes it into a fraction for you. And that's it. So 1,233 over 2,500. And that's it. So it's 1,233 2,500ths. And that's it. Now, actually, I just want to go back and explain something that actually, if you don't have a scientific calculator and you've got quite a basic calculator, if you had this question and you didn't have a scientific calculator and just a basic one, you could just do 7 divided by 16, and that's equal to 0.4375. So you could just type that into your calculator. And likewise, for this one, you could just type in 13 divided by 42 and then get your answer, and that would just change it into decimal for you as well. And this one, if you didn't have a scientific calculator and you can just type in that decimal number and press equals, what I probably would do is, if I had a calculator but not like a very advanced one, I'd get a scientific one. Alternatively, I would look at this number and say, well, it's tenths, hundredths, thousandths, tens of thousands, so it's going to be 10,000 on the denominator, because that's tenths, hundredths, thousands, and 10,000ths, and then 4,932 on the numerator, and then I would just cancel that down, and if I had a calculator, I'd use that to help me, and I would cancel down to this. Okay, next, question number 30. So question number 30, again, if you've got a scientific calculator, you can just type in 1.925 on your calculator, 1.925, and press equals, and it'll just come up as 77/40ths, and it's just changed it into a fraction and simplified it for you. So the answer is 77/40ths, and that's it. Now, if you've got quite a basic calculator, not a good scientific one, then if you look at this, you've got tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. So that's going to be 1,925 over 1,000, because you've got thousandths there. And then you just cancel this down by dividing both of them by 5, and so on. And you just carry on until you're finished and use the calculator to help you. Okay, question number 31. So question number 31 says, circle the fraction that is equivalent to 5.25. So we've got these fractions, and we need to circle the ones equivalent to 5.25. That's a non-calculator question, unfortunately. So we need to convert all these fractions into decimals, or did you convert this decimal into a fraction, whichever approach you prefer. And actually, I'm going to do both just for a bit of fun. So if I was to change these into decimals, I would do 21 divided by 4. So I'd do 21 divided by 4. I would do 23 divided by 4. I would do 25 divided by 4. So 25 divided by 4. And I would do 27 divided by 4, and I would do all of those divisions and see which one gives us 5.25, and hopefully it'll be one of the early ones. Let's see. How many 4s go into 2? 0, remainder 2. How many 4s go into 21? That's 5, remainder 1. How many 4s go into 10? That's going to be 2, remainder, that's 8, that's remainder 2. And how many 4s go into 20? That's 5. Actually, I just needed to do the first division. I didn't need to write all of those out. And that's it. That's our answer. Another approach would have been to take the decimal number. Now, I probably would have used that approach. Another approach is to take the decimal number, which is 5.25, and then to convert that into a fraction. So here we've got tenths, and then we've got hundredths. So we're dealing with hundredths here, so it's going to be 525 hundredths. And then you could divide both of these by 5, so you could do 525 divided by 5. How many 5s go into 5? 1. And then how many 5s go into 2? 0, remainder 2. And how many 5s go into 25? That's 5. So it's going to be equal to 105 over 20, dividing both of those by 5. We can divide by 5 again, and that'll be equal to 21 over 4. So the answer is 21 quarters, and that's it. So you could use either of those approaches. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 32. So question number 32, this is a calculator question, that's great. And we need to circle the fraction that's equivalent to 2.375. Now, if you've got a good calculator, you can just type this into your calculator, 2.375, and press equals, and it's come up as 19/8. So that's it, 19/8. Just typing that into your calculator and pressing equals. If you don't have a good scientific calculator, which you really should do, but if you don't, if I had this and I wanted to change this into a fraction, I would say, well, we've got tenths, hundredths and thousands. So we've got 2,375 over 1,000. And then I would divide both of those by 5 and so on and keep on dividing, and then you get down that, and then you'd simplify that down to 19/8. And that's it. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 33. So question number 33, we've got some decimals and fractions, and we need to match the decimals and the fractions. So we've got 0.4 is equal to 2/5. So we've talked about that one earlier on, that 1/5 is 0.2, so 2/5 is 0.4. A third, well, we know a third is 0.33333 and so on, so that one's a third. And then we've got two more. We've got 0.325 and 0.35, and then we've got two fractions left, which are 7/20ths and 13/40ths. Okay, what I'm going to do is, it's a non-calculator question. I'm going to change one of these decimals into a fraction. I'm going to do this one here. We've got tenths and then hundredths, so it's going to be 35 hundredths. So that's 35 hundredths. And then we can cancel that down, dividing both of those by 5. Well, 35 divided by 5 is 7, and 100 divided by 5 is 20. So 0.375 is 7/20ths. That is 7/20ths, and then that means that this one is equal to that one. And that's it. Okay, so let's look at our last question, question number 34. This is a non-calculator question, so I've put down the calculator, and the question says to arrange these numbers in order from smallest to largest. So I'm going to change them all into decimal numbers because I just find them a bit easier to compare. So 2/3, that's 0.66666 and so on. You should know that off by heart. We've got 0.7, or 0.666 and so on, or 0.65. We've got 3/5, so that's 3/5. Well, 1/5 is equal to 0.2. 2/5 would be 0.4, and 3/5 would be 0.6. Or you could do 3 divided by 5, but again, you should just know that 3/5 is 0.6. And then finally, we've got 5/8. So let's take our 5 and divide it by 8. And I'm going to do a decimal point and some zeros and divide that by 8. How many 8s go into 5? 0, remainder 5. How many 8s go into 50? That's going to be equal to 6, because 6 8s is 48, so 6 remainder 2. How many 8s go into 20? That's going to be 2 remainder 4. And how many 8s go into 40? That's 5, so it's going to be 0.625. And that's it. So we've converted our fractions into decimals. Now we need to put them in order. So we'll go from smallest to largest. So let's look at our units, or our ones. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So that doesn't help us. Now let's look at our tenths. 7/10. Well, that's not going to be the smallest. That's actually going to be, if we look at it, that's actually the largest. It's got the most number of tenths. That's our largest number. I'm just going to put it there, 0.7. That's our largest number, because that's 6/10, 6/10, 6/10, 6/10. So that's our largest. Okay, now let's look at our hundredths. This one's got 6 hundredths. This one's got 5 hundredths. This one's got no hundredths. That's our smallest. And I'm going to write it as our original fraction, 3/5. So 3/5 is the smallest. So we've done that one. Okay, now let's look again at the hundredths. 6 hundredths, 5 hundredths, and 2 hundredths. That's our next smallest. So 5/8. So we've done that one and that one. Okay, now let's look at hundredths again. 6 hundredths and 5 hundredths. So 5 hundredths, that's our next smallest, 0.65. And then our 2/3 are 0.666. That's got 6 hundredths. That's bigger than our 0.65. So that's it. So that's it. We've arranged them in order. 3/5, 5/8, are 0.65, 2/3, and 0.7. And that's it. We've arranged the numbers in order from smallest to largest. And that's it. And that's it. So in this video, we've looked at the video solutions on the converting between decimals and fractions practice questions. I really hope you found this video useful. If you need any extra help on this topic, you can go to Corbettmaths and go to the videos on convert between fractions and decimals, and that's with and without calculators, and they are videos 123, 124, 127, and 128. But I really hope you found this video useful. If you have found it useful, please like it and please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you. Cheers. Bye.